morning, guys. I hope you're having a great day. I was like, there's a bunch of stuff that I want to do, and I was like, I wanted to get this little intro clip real quick before I get going on stuff, so that's why there's no makeup, none of that yet. Anyways, we have some, I need to put away a bunch of stuff. We had some friends over a couple days ago. Actually, it's been like a week, and so we have tables, chairs, there's clothes, maternity clothes. I had to clean out my maternity clothes again. Stuff like that. And today I'm also making bread. We'll see what else I do. It could just be a really random organizing video, a really short one. These days I haven't had a lot of energy, just trying to get a bit of sleep in. Last night we went to bed like at 9:15, and I was tired when I went to bed. I was like ready to go to sleep. And as soon as I lay down, I was like, oh, I can't sleep. And I felt like I was awake for hours, just kind of lightly out, not fully awake, but feeling like I was awake. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyways, I'm in my 3rd trimester now, and so a lot of my clothes are getting tighter and tighter. And that's why I had to swap stuff out, because I hate wearing maternity clothes that are super tight. To me, that's just, I can't stand that. So anyways, I hope you guys hang around, join me, maybe take a break from doing your own homemaking while you watch this, and I hope it's entertaining, interesting, I don't know, all of the above. So anyways, let's get going. One thing on my agenda was to get some more bread made. We had run out of flour the previous week, and so I was very, very thankful to get a hold of some more bags of whole grain flour, which I like to use. I was very thankful to get my hands on some more white hard wheat, because that's what I like to use for the sourdough. I always try to get all the flour out of that lower portion of the grain grinder, so that way I don't have flour that's like getting stale or anything. Anyways, that has been one of the nicest things to have. I gotta say, my grinder for the KitchenAid did nothing compared to having a real grain grinder. Anyhow, this is honestly my favorite type of grain to use for bread making. It makes the bread fairly light. Not heavy as you would think with hard wheat, but then I also had a bag of oats I had gotten from the Azure order. That was kind of fun. I had a friend who picked it up for me. That was really nice of her. We go through a lot of oats, so here we were just filling up all our containers. One thing I was really excited to order from Azure was a 5-pound bag of Himalayan salt, but when they went to ship the orders, they ended up being out of it, which I was super bummed about, because we really needed to get some of the good salt. And then my friend was like, here, you can have this, and I was like, really? So that was very, very thoughtful of her. We've been using just Great Value or some generic brand of salt for our popcorn, and it's not the same. Even when you try to look for stuff without fillers, without sugar, if you can believe that, yeah, there is salt. There is sugar in salt sometimes. Right now is definitely a time where I do not take having a dishwasher for granted. It's been one of the best things right now, especially as I feel like my energy is pretty limited these days. It's not like it would take that much work to wash the dishes, but just being able to put stuff in there and feel like stuff is being done and then I can go and just give myself a little break has been tremendous. Especially because I'm trying to not overdo it this pregnancy, trying to stay balanced in terms of exercise and activities. So that's maybe why some of my videos have seemed not quite as active lately, but I'm just trying to do the basics like bread. That's one of those. Just make sure we have regular bread on hand for sandwiches and things like that. Our back room had gotten pretty messy. Stuff had been collecting and building up. I had a bunch of einkorn I needed to put away, a bunch of snacks and just different containers and random stuff that had all ended up there. It's kind of like that place where it's just easy to set things. So I grabbed our little red wagon and just loaded it up with stuff that needed to go out to the shed, try to make as few trips as possible. And we took everything out, got it all out to the shed. Things that either needed to be thrown out or just things that needed to be put in storage and put away for now. When you guys make bread, do you have any you freeze? I try to make fairly good sized batches at a time so that way I don't have to make it every single week. Right now I'm trying to build up a stock in the freezer, so I'm doing bread like every day for a couple days. But typically I like to slice it up so that way when I pull it out of the freezer it's all ready to go, all ready to eat. You know, the other day I made one of the more artisan styled loaves of bread and I was super bummed because I had run out of flour, so I couldn't redo it, but it was like super hard. And I don't know if I've just kind of out of practice from making the more artisan style bread, but it was pretty pathetic the way it turned out. I was like, oh yeah, that's why I stick to the sandwich bread, because this stuff turns out pretty good. We go through it super fast. When I went to make sourdough, I realized that I didn't have near enough of my starter bulked up, so I ended up just making half a batch, which made about 2 loaves. This dough was the nicest, softest dough I've seen in a while, and so that was pretty nice to see. Sometimes it's kind of tricky shaping it to get it to fit in the pan right. I always try to handle it as little as possible because the last thing I want is to mess up like air bubbles and flatten it and stuff. But it turned out really good. It had a nice rise to it. I've got to make some bread tomorrow too, so I'm really hoping that it has just as nice of a rise and good crumb too. It's always I always find there's different factors that affect the bread, and you just never know how it's going to turn out. You could say I was kind of catching up on different projects. One of them was remixing up a batch, not remixing, but making a batch of baking blend. This one's a fun one because it's really nice to use in more keto styled recipes. So it's got like almond flour, coconut flour, oat fiber, and a bunch of other stuff. That's why I smelled one of the things, because I was like, is this coconut? Yep, smells like coconut. And so I like to have this on hand for those recipes that call for baking blend. If you follow True Healthy Mama, then you'll know what I'm referring to. They're more the recipes that are fat-based. Anyways, it's always a pain when you're in the middle of a recipe and you need like a cup of this and you're out of it. So I was like, okay, it's time to make up a fresh batch, because I completely used up the last batch. I will say you're supposed to use golden flax meal, but I didn't have golden. I don't think this is golden. I just had that regular flax, ground flax, so that's what I put in it, and it doesn't bother me. It works pretty good. It's probably more just a color thing, so you don't have brown specks in your baking blend. Next up, like I mentioned earlier, was putting some of these maternity shirts and things away. If I'm being honest, I've had these shirts sitting out for at least a week now, if not longer, where I needed to get them put away. So I've just had them sitting in this tub in our room, and it's kind of shifted around from the bed to the dresser to the floor, and I was like, it's time to get it out. Someday it would be nice to have a closet big enough where I don't have to constantly swap stuff out, because with the fact that I feel like I'm pregnant every year or whatever, less than a year, it kind of feels like I'm always pulling these clothes out. Of course, there's these different seasons too, but anyways, maybe one day we'll have a setup where I can just have a pregnancy section in the closet and it's not that big of a deal. But for now, I just put stuff away and pull it out as needed, and then kind of there is a bit of fun surpriseness to it, because you never know what you're going to pull out. I kind of forget what I already have out there with the kind of brain I have. Well, I finally got ready for the day. It's 4 o'clock. It's after 4. Finally got my makeup on and had to switch my glasses because my eyes were drying out. But anyways, thank you guys for hanging out, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll be back next week with another one. If you enjoy this kind of content, we'd love it if you subscribed if you haven't already. And I would love hearing what one of your favorite things about homemaking, even just the regular old stuff. If there's one thing that you really, really enjoy doing, let me know. I've got to go take care of my little girl now. So thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you guys next week.